Hey guys, it's John from Album Review TV. It's time for a review of the fourth studio album by rock group Manchester Orchestra titled Cope. It was released on April 1st through their own record label as well as through Loma, Vista records. Like I said, this being the fourth time around, Manchester Orchestra decided to do things a little bit differently this time around and just go for an all-out, intense rock and roll experience. If you haven't, make sure you follow me on Twitter and Facebook to stay up to date on all things ARTV and of course all things in the world of music, period. Also check out my vlog channel. I post a new vlog of what's going on in my life, just day-to-day footage type thing every Sunday on that channel. The links to all three of those things are in the description down below. Manchester Orchestra, if you have not heard, are the indie rockers from Atlanta, Georgia. They boast hard riffs, smart lyrics, and carefully balanced charges of anger, and then soft, eerie, slow burners that have a way of really just creeping their way into the back of your mind throughout the day. Really, a lot of these thoughts that they have, frontman Andy Hull has on the records that they release, just have a way of making you think, and they're introspective at times, self-questioning, questioning relationships. There's really just a whole lot that goes into the writing process, I feel like, on these records. He's just a very smart guy from a writing standpoint. He has this electronic influence side project called Bad Books that made one of my favorite tracks of all time called Forrest Whitaker. What I'm getting at is that I'm a big fan of not just Andy Hull, Manchester Orchestra, period. I think they're extremely talented and this band has never failed to intrigue me. Cope is no exception to that. Cope may be their most cohesive record as a whole, at least to date. It's almost, dare I say, too focused, if that can even be a thing. Too much so on making every song live up to the fact that the band described them as relentless. And I think that's almost to a fault, but at the same time, with each song feeling like it needs to rock out at all times for the most part, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's just that I miss some of those slow burners that I was talking about. It's something about the chase, I guess you could say. Take the song Virgin, for example. It had this really, really slow start. It's very creepy and eerie feel to it, and then it just breaks out these big guitar riffs that really just smash open that track and bring it to life. Andy's vocals on that track are just angsty, passionate, just even a bit eerie, and just I love the way that the choir goes in the back of that track. And I'm just saying, those are some things that I miss, but at the same time, I'm getting used to this new sound. It's a good change. I think, at least for this record, I think that if you're going to go balls to the wall rock and roll and just be all about the heaviness of the music, then do it. And they did it. This entire record, it does not let up from start to finish. Lyrically, once again, this whole album is genius. Who writes songs like this anymore with such intellect that actually make the listener think and question? It's something that's almost unheard of in this day and age. There's not necessarily a bad song on this entire record. It's just that I feel like some don't set themselves apart from the others as much as they probably could. I really can't complain about any track on this record though. Each time I think I dislike a song on Cope, I give it another listen and then find another reason to like it instead of dislike it. The title track, Cope, is the one that stands out to me the most. Lyrically, musically, this tune has it. It's just everything you could possibly want in the Manchester Orchestra track. It's got the build-up, it's got the payoff, it has everything, and I think that's why this is my favorite song on Cope. This album is aggressive as hell musically, passionate vocally, and solid from a writing standpoint all the way around. My only main complaint is the mixing. Something doesn't seem quite right on some of these tracks. I feel like the drums tend to get buried at times, and even the vocals get placed on the back burner in place of the guitar and the bass. It's never to the point where I can't hear them at all, but it almost seems like another entry into the big battle going on that is the loudness war. I'm not saying that's what they were intending, I'm just saying the fact that the mixes on some of these tracks weren't as excellent as I think they could be. But nonetheless, it has nothing to do with me falling for this record. It has not stopped me from thoroughly enjoying it. The track Every Stone is a highlight musically and sees a lot of upbeat vibes, something that I feel like is kind of new to the band, at least writing multiple ones on the same album and writing from a different place, I feel like, is what had to be done. Manchester Orchestra actually wrote and made this album from the house that they were in when they were 16. I think at least some of them were, I believe is what was said in a documentary I watched regarding the making of Cope, and I thought that was really intriguing that they kind of went back to where it all began to make this new record. Although some of the tracks don't feel as solid from a writing standpoint. Case in point, I would probably point out See It Again, Choose You as the two tracks that I'm not exactly digging as much. Choose You has the weakest chorus on the record in my opinion. It's really the downfall of that track because it does have a lot of really solid musical moments, and See It Again really just struggles to find the right pace throughout its run. The Mansion is definitely a rocker with a pretty refreshing chorus. It's not necessarily like one of the top songs on the record maybe, but it does have that chorus that I talked about powered by these loud guitars, kind of carve their way through. But then again, there's those drums that don't quite feel like they're getting to be heard like they truly should. I still do think it's one of the key tracks on this record though. One of my personal favorites though is the track The Ocean. All throughout, the guitars carve their way through and set the pace for Andy's yearning yet strong vocal performance. Drums, backing guitars take this upbeat sounding approach and make this one of the highlights of Cope. All I really wanted is one of the more experimental sounding tracks. I say that very loosely as it is still very much a rock track full of blistering guitars, blistering yet upbeat and bright. It's different, it's refreshing, it reminds me a whole lot of Andy's side project, Bad Books. It's easily turning into one of my favorite songs on the record, if not my overall favorite in a tie with the title track. Trees has some of the most interesting guitars on the entire record, and then Indentions follows that up with some super honest lyrics and amazing musicianship. At this point, I'm sitting here wondering how the band did this from a writing standpoint, but then again, I know. I told you I watched that behind the scenes making of Cope, and it really does seem like the band's heart was in this record and making it great. Doing it yourself, their DIY attitude really paid off. The results were totally explosive here on this record. Go pick up this album. It's definitely a must. It's not something I usually say, go rush out and buy this album, but I definitely think it's one that's a no-brainer. The tracks near the beginning don't necessarily hold their own with the rest, Top Notch being an exception to that, of course, but they're still pretty solid, and it's gonna be a damn shame if you guys miss out on this record or have missed out on their past records. 4.5 out of 5 from me. What did you think of Cope? Let me know in the comments section down below. You loving it, you hating it, and why. I'm planning on doing Punk Goes 90s Volume 2, possibly the RAC record, Strangers, maybe even Chiodo's Devil. Let me know which ones you're hoping for most. I've had a lot of requests for each of those, so let me know which ones you're most interested in. Thanks for hitting the like button on this review, subscribing to the channel, sharing with a friend, and I will see you guys very soon right here on Album Review TV, Beyond the Reviews. I can't see.